So what do we have going on with online shopping is you all are weird as shit and you're not normal. And then your customers aren't normal either. And they don't really have any interest in shopping. They're shopping brands and images. And so then you as a so-called quote influencer prepare yourself as a brand and an image to fit the mold of what sells on product versus actually standing for who you are as a person. Like there's characteristics about who you are as a person or who you used to be prior to all this shit. And it wasn't great, but it was decent and people could tolerate you. And you were kind of interesting, but you were kind of boring at the same time. And throughout time, you grew in more interest. And maybe you needed your teeth fixed, but you were like normal sort of, but you could take the person in small doses or long doses, I don't know. Or you actually had something to get interested in. And you actually had stories to tell. And you didn't have to be afraid that someone was going to take your story and Kristen Cavallari wasn't going to take that story and act like the story happened to her, because nothing ever happens to her, because she lives a sheltered life of bougie living, of getting massages, hair, and makeup. But then Kristen Cavallari, unbeknownst to you and your wife, she tells the story, and then without your wife even knowing where the hell the story's coming from, she thinks you're cheating on her, but you really didn't cheat on her. It's that Kristen Cavallari told a story about what you had said, and then it telepathically through the internet wavelength, because you're going live and shit, and so is she, is infiltrating your relationship because she has guilt around the fact that she doesn't actually live a real life and she's trying to steal someone else's. And then the crossfire of all that, she kind of thinks you're cute, but she would never touch you because you're not rich and you're not famous and you're just a fireman. Meanwhile, even as I say that about your wife gets pissed at me when I haven't done shit to her except for try to help her marriage. And that's what we're dealing with men and women. If you don't do and say and act what they want, or say what they act and want, or act in a way that they want you to act, they turn into these vicious, wild animals. So that means you're not allowed to be a human being. You're not allowed to have opinions. You're not allowed to have conversations around interesting conversations of what it would mean to agree to disagree, which is why the world used to say the opposites attract. But you were able to tolerate each other in conversation, and you were able to tolerate a married man, as in just a customer. However, even that conversation, she gets all jealous about that shit. But that is what those bitches are doing, such as Monavan. That is the energy Gary puts out when he takes a picture of Monavan. Understand what I just said, and you'll break down their entire network, meaning each and every one of you men who pose for pictures and videos are 100% responsible for the fact that Gary Vee and Monavan took a picture at an Eat Clean party that sent a trajectory out into the world of the internet so that they could feel something inside themselves while they could create disconnect in the entire globe, so that they could win on platform while they then coach you on relationships. While they then coach you on men to women relationships, but they're infiltrating your relationship by saying the word relationship to imply seduction. And that goes for anything Kristen Cavallari says. Even if you're literally just scrolling through and you're in the other room and your wife's sitting there watching it, and Kristen Cavallari is thinking about a dude and how attractive he is, but he's married, because she's so fucking selfish and so fucking unprofessional. She literally separates you from your wife to husband because she sets the mindset inside you without you even knowing, because this is all within the ether of the internet, of telepathic behavior, of watching her tell you about what she thinks attractive in a man, and you're like, well, that looks like my man. Or she says, I once had a crush on a man who was married, and you're like, well, you're not going to get my husband. And then you think everybody's trying to get your husband. And then she's like, ooh, I'm winning. And now I'm going to tell you that I spent all afternoon with him and we went on a date together. But then that shit never even happened. But it gives her clit a little tingle. And that's what the Giggly Squad are up to too. But guess what then they do? They go on a red carpet and take photographs with their real boyfriends while they wear fancy outfits. And they tell you that you'll never get where they are, while they then go back onto the Giggly Squad and tell you about how you too can be an entrepreneur. So while Gary Vee talks to all these rich fucks who are making all sorts of money and telling them now to get on Whatnot, you're still stuck at 1,100 followers and haven't grown a day since the day you started this fucking shit. But he's over there riding the high life, going on fucking fancy trips to Qatar and Miami and hosting clean parties and all kinds of other dumbass shit. While he takes a fucking Persian whore and gets her brand deals on Pix11 and then takes her all across the globe to show off her diamond ring. While you as an audience anger and hate, all you do is consume it all day long. And this is only one example of thousands and thousands of other men and women who are doing the exact same thing with their dumbass fit checks while they live in New York City. Well, they're not even from New York City. And let's not forget about the people who are teaching you about narcissism, are the ones that are teaching you about anxiety, are the ones that are teaching you about, I don't even know what the hell these people are teaching, but take a look at the ones that are holding up their children as if they're an accessory. And then you all are like, well, we're such a happy family. Well, me and my family, fuck you and your fucking family, Gary Vee. Fuck you and your Persian family. Now, are you getting a little clearer on how the Middle East is infiltrating American? How the Middle East are infiltrating the way we think in America while Gary Vee just goes on another fucking trip to Canada for Thanksgiving? And she goes, yeah, check mark. And then he doesn't say shit. Well, you were like, well, why isn't my business growing? And he's like, well, because you're not on Whatnot, a Chinese app. So now you're going to be part of communism, even more so than you already are. So now we got communism, we got the Middle East. They're all infiltrating this country with open borders, which is likely why another reason why they opened the open borders is so that all these freak fucks could come into the country on the internet. Because it would be illegal if these people are crossing the border through the internet, because then that would be an open border, would it not? Meaning, I don't want to look at a Palestinian freak in some devil fucking cement home. Oh, wait, I'm looking at Mona Van's apartment with Gary Vee. While Americans stand on a fucking pedestal and talk in weird-ass conversations that make absolutely no fucking sense. Yeah, they said the word sweet and special, and then they used the word sex, and she just stood there and said, yeah. Yeah, I just know a lot of people who jumped in the sack on the first day Mona Van said at her 2-month ago podcast with that weird-ass therapist that she's been seeing for 12 years. What a fucking freak you are, Gary Vee. What a fucking psycho fuck all of you are. And they're just going to act like you're all, like, you used to be normal people who would never fall for that shit. You cannot turn a blind eye on this shit. You cannot walk away from this shit. You literally say that you want to be an entrepreneur? Well, the entrepreneur game is you got to fucking call these bitches out because they ain't fucking American. And the government is not protecting you. And Kristen Cavallari will sure as hell run you and your wife over in the fucking dirt and then act like she didn't do anything without actually seeing that she did what she didn't say that she did. And that's called communism. But she's in like Flynn with the fucking network. She's in the club. We family. We're in the club. We're family. Meanwhile, you make no money, and she makes what? How much money? Well, she runs down the street and disrespects Jason Stratham and fucking Morgan Wallen, who I fucking hate. While all you men just stand around and say, yeah, well, like, open your fucking mouth, you little fucking pussies. Jason Stratham says he only wants to be with one wife forever. And then he's going to allow that woman to say that shit about him and his wife, while all of you stand around and go, well, what the fuck? And then you're all going to abuse him if he does open his mouth. And then you say, well, what about us as fans and followers? Well, maybe you should allow these people to speak the truth. And cancel culture, everybody.